If I could go back and learn HVAC from the scratch, knowing everything I know now, I do it completely differently. I wasted months researching programs, looking at trade schools, trying to figure out what certifications mattered. And honestly, most of that time was completely unnecessary because now that I'm in the field, I can see what actually matters for getting hired and what's just noise. And this matters because the path you choose determines whether you're working and earning in a few months or whether you're stuck in school for 2 years spending $15,000 before you even apply your first job. So in this video, I'm walking you through exactly how I learned HVAC if I started over today. The fastest path, the most efficient path, and the one that gets you hired without wasting time and money. Let's get into it. I'm Brandon and I'm in my first year working as an HVAC technician. I do service calls, sales, diagnostics, basically everything that comes with being a tech in the field. Here's the thing, my path into HVAC was pretty unique. I used to run a digital marketing agency specifically for HVAC companies. I'd help them generate leads, build their online presence, websites, and get them more customers. And honestly, I was really good at it. But the more I worked with these companies, the more I noticed something. My clients were making serious money, like way more than when I was running my marketing agency. Crazy. They were selling units left and right. And I'm sitting here thinking, why am I just helping them make more money when I could be doing this myself? So let me take you back and show you exactly how I ended up here, because understanding my path will help you see what actually matters when you're trying to break into this field. I dropped out of college. I was studying business management, which is funny because I ended up starting my own company anyways. So college just wasn't for me. And before I had my agency, I was making $9.40 as a barista making coffee, getting yelled at by mean ladies. Then I taught myself marketing and sales, and I built an agency and started working with HVAC companies. One of my clients saw how I ran my business, and he saw that I kept my word, got results, and knew how to sell, and that I understood his industry better than most people in it. He made me an offer I never even asked for. He wanted to train me to become an HVAC technician. Literally sell my company and train me as an HVAC technician. Crazy. At first, I thought it was really random, but the more I thought about it, the more it made sense. And that's why I moved from Arizona to Alabama to do HVAC. I was watching these companies get hundreds of leads. They were selling systems worth thousands of dollars, like $11,300 for one system. The techs were making great money, had stable jobs, and honestly seemed like they enjoyed work. This 21-year-old kid had a farm. I want a farm. Meanwhile, I realized that marketing agencies for small businesses might not have the best long-term growth. So I sold my part of the agency to my business partner and moved to Alabama in January of 2025 to learn HVAC. Fast forward to now, I work 7 a.m. to 3 p.m., which is honestly great. I have time to spend with my wife, work on side projects if I want, and I'm making around $60,000 a year my first year when you're including commission. I went from making $500 a week to $2,400 bi-weekly as my base pay, and the career ladder only goes up from here. I've seen techs personally make $80,000, and the owners, they make way more than that. That's why I moved out here. This job made my marriage stronger. It gave me financial stability. It put me in a trade that's AI proof and always going to be in demand, because let's be real, robots are not going to fix your air conditioning system anytime soon. So if you are looking to break into HVAC, or you're just curious about whether this is the right path for you, let me walk you through exactly how I do it if I was going to start from scratch today. Something you need to understand is the difference between an HVAC system and the individual parts that make them work. A lot of people jump in thinking they just need to know how to fix stuff, but that's not really how it works. You need to understand the whole system first, how air flows, how refrigerant moves through the cycle, how electrical signals control everything. Once you get that big picture, then individual pieces start making sense. So here are the 3 core things I'd focus on if I was starting over. First, safety and tools. This might sound boring, but it's the most important part. You're going to be working with electricity, really cold refrigerants, gas lines, and heavy equipment. If you don't know how to stay safe, you're going to get hurt yourself or someone else, and no company is going to hire someone who doesn't take safety seriously. You need to learn OSHA standards, how to use personal protective equipment, ladder safety, lockout, tagout procedures for electrical systems. You need to know how to handle compressed gas cylinders, what to do if there's a refrigerant leak, and how to spot hazards before they become real big problems. Then there's the tools. You don't need to own every tool right away. I didn't. This is my first tool right here, but you need to know what they're for. Wrenches, screwdrivers, multimeters, manifold, refrigerant, recovery machines, vacuum pumps. If you already know these basics, you're way ahead of most people starting out. Second, system types and how they work. HVAC isn't just one thing. There's different parts. There's heating, ventilation, air conditioning, and refrigeration. And within each of those, there's different types of systems. You've got split systems where the condenser is outside and the air handler is inside. You've got a whole package unit where everything is in one cabinet outside. You've got ductless mini splits. You've got heat pumps that both heat and cool. You've got gas furnaces, electric furnaces, boilers. The refrigeration cycle is the foundation of almost everything. So you need to get how it works. You need to understand how refrigerant absorbs heat in the evaporator, gets compressed, releases that heat in the condenser, and then goes through the metering device to start the cycle over again. Once you get that cycle down, air conditioning and heat pumps start making sense. And when you're on a service call and something's not working, you need to be able to trace the problem back through the system. Is it an airflow issue? Is it a refrigerant issue? Is it electrical? If you don't know, and if you don't understand how the system is supposed to work, you'll be stumped and stuck. Third, core components and electrical basics. Now you get into the actual parts: compressors, condensers, evaporator coils, metering devices, thermostats, contactors, relays, capacitors, transformers. Every single one of these has a job. And when one fails, the whole system stops working. It's not good. You also need to understand electrical systems, the high voltage and the low voltage, and how to read a wiring diagram, how to use a multimeter to check voltage, amperage, and resistance. You also need to learn how to test capacitors, how to check if a contactor is working, how to trace a short in a wire. I'm not gonna lie, the electrical side was scary at first, but once you learn the basics, you start applying them in the field, and then it clicks. You realize that it's all just logic. Electricity flows from one point to another. If it's not flowing, something's stopping it. Your job is to find out what's stopping it. Here's what most people messed up. They think the only way to learn HVAC is to go to trade school, spend thousands of dollars, and sit in a classroom for 1 to 2 years before they even get to touch real equipment. And look, trade school works for some people, but it's so slow. It's expensive. And honestly, a lot of what they're teaching you isn't what you'll actually use in the field. It's just theory. I learned on the job, which is great in some ways. My mentor would send me out on service calls and help me over the phone when I got stuck. It was scary. A lot of people in the trade call it throwing you out to the wolves. But I had to figure out a lot of stuff myself, and there were gaps in my knowledge that made things harder than they needed to be. If I could go back and do it again, I'd want to learn the basics fast without spending a fortune going through years of schooling. And that's actually why I suggest course careers. I went through the HVAC course myself to see what it covered, and honestly, it's exactly what I wish I had when I was starting out. It teaches you all the core knowledge like safety, tools, systems, all the components, installation basics, maintenance procedures, electrical theory, refrigeration cycles, literally everything. And it's set up in a way that makes sense. You're not going to be sitting through a bunch of filler classes that have nothing to do with the job. The course only costs $499, and that's it. Compare that to $5,000 for trade school. Most graduates finish it in 1 to 2 months, and then they're ready to start applying for jobs. No years in trade school, no debt, no extra filler. Just the stuff you need to know to get hired. And here's the best part about course careers. It has a free introduction course that walks you through what the career actually looks like, what the job market is, whether you'd be a good fit. I'll drop the link below. If you're even slightly curious about HVAC, just go there, the free course, and see what you think. No risk at all. Companies want you to have this foundational knowledge because it shows that you're serious. And when you invest in yourself, people are going to view you as a high value employee. When you walk into an interview and you can talk about stuff like refrigerant pressures, electrical systems, circuits, and system diagnostics, they know you're not just some random person who thinks HVAC is easy money. They know that you invested in yourself. They'll be able to tell you've actually put work into it and understand the trade. That makes you stand out, trust me. Once you got the basics down, you need to get your foot in the door. And here's my advice. Don't just sit there uploading your resume to Indeed and waiting for someone to call you back. You just won't get hired, trust me. That's not how getting hired in HVAC works. Here's what I would do. I'd make a list of 30 to 50 local HVAC companies within a 20-mile radius of where you live. Then I'd call every single one of them and ask if they are hiring. Some will say no, some will tell you to apply online, but some will actually talk to you, and that's your shot. When you get someone on the phone, tell them you're learning HVAC, you've gone through training, and you're looking for a company that's willing to bring on someone who's coachable and ready to work. Don't act like you know everything. Be honest, say you're new, but that you're serious about learning and that you even invested in yourself by getting a course. The secret sauce And this is something I wish more people understood, is that your boss or the owner wants to achieve a goal with you. That's why they're hiring you. So when you're in the interview, ask them, what are your 1, 5, and 10-year goals for the company? How do you want to get there? And then show them how you can help them reach those goals faster. If the owner says, I want to grow from 5 techs to 10 techs in the next 2 years, you say, I'm reliable, I'm willing to learn fast, and I'm not going to waste your time. If you invest in training me, I'll be one of those techs who help you hit that goal. That's how you stand out. Most people show up and say, I just need a job, which is not going to get them hired. But if you show up and say, I understand what you're trying to build, and here is how I fit into it, you're going to get hired. Your portfolio in HVAC isn't like a design portfolio. It's showing up with the right attitude, being handy with tools, proving you're coachable, and ideally having some certifications too later on. If you can get your EPA 608 certification, that is huge, since it shows you know how to handle refrigerants legally, not illegally. And it's not too expensive, usually between $80 to $150. Just having that alone will put you ahead of a lot of applicants. Most guys don't have that. And while you're learning, steal from everyone. Watch YouTube videos, follow HVAC techs like Tim DeStasio, learn from the people who are already doing the work. Don't try to reinvent the wheel. Just absorb everything you can and apply it. Landing the job isn't just about having the skills, it's about how you present yourself and who you know. When I landed my first HVAC job, it wasn't because I had years of experience. It was because my client saw how I worked. He saw that I was dependable, that I could sell, that I understood the business side of HVAC. He knew I'd be a valuable employee because I wasn't just looking for a paycheck. So here's what I would do if I was applying for a job today. First, after you apply, don't just sit there waiting. You got to reach out at the company. If you can find the hiring manager or owner on LinkedIn, that's even better. Send them a message, keep it short, nothing too crazy. You'd want to say something like, hey, I just applied for the technician position. I'm really interested in learning more about your company and how I can contribute. Would love to chat for a few minutes if you have time. That's it. You could even do this over the phone or show up in person. Most people don't do this. So when you do this, you immediately stand out. Second, when you get the interview, ask about the company's goals. I already mentioned this, but it's so important. I'm saying it again. Ask what they're trying to achieve in the next year, in the next 5 years, and position yourself as someone who's going to help them get there. That is literally how I got my job at Vandy's. Third, show that you're coachable. Hiring managers aren't expecting you to know everything, but they're expecting you to be willing to learn. If you come in acting like you know everything with a big head, they're just gonna pass on you. They're not gonna hire you. But if you say, I don't know everything yet, but I'm a fast learner and I take feedback seriously, they're gonna take a chance on you. And if you want to know exactly how to do this outreach, how to format your resume, how to optimize your LinkedIn, how to prepare for interviews, Course Careers teaches all that step by step. They even give you the exact template to use so you're just not guessing. Also, look for local industry events. Supply houses sometimes have open houses where contractors show up. HVAC trade organizations have meetups. Even if you're not working in the field, go to these events. Introduce yourself. Tell people you're trying to break in. You'd be surprised on how many people are willing to help you out. And trust me, I'm Gen Z. I know it's scared to talk to people, but you just got to do it. HVAC is one of those careers that people don't think about because it's not flashy. You're not sitting in an office. You're not coding apps. You're climbing into attics, crawling under houses, and getting your hands dirty. But it's stable, it pays well, and it's always going to be in demand. And you don't need a degree to do it. I went from making $9.40 an hour as a barista to making $60,000 in my first career as an HVAC tech. I work reasonable hours, I have time for my family and my hobbies. I'm learning a skill that I can take anywhere. And honestly, I'm bullish on the trades in general. If you're on the fence about whether this is the right move, I'd say try the free intro course, see if that's a good fit. That link for the free intro course is in the description below. It's completely free. You'll learn about what the day-to-day actually looks like, what the earning potential is, and whether you'd be a good fit. No commitment, no pressure. And if you found this helpful, subscribe, drop a comment, and I'll see you guys out in the field.